So when I first saw Love Jones a few years ago, I was pretty excited to watch it. With the way that it was hyped up, I just assumed that it was the epitome of Black romance, far surpassing Love and Basketball, and Poetic Justice. Once I finished watching it, I decided that y'all could have kept that one. I could barely finish that movie. It was honestly boring, a little nonsensical, and really just a forgettable movie. So first I am going to talk about the one thing or a couple things that I actually did like about the movie, and then I'll do a recap of the movie, and along the way just point out parts of it that honestly I didn't like or just didn't make sense to me. And finally, I'll discuss the overall issue I had with the movie and then how I think that it could have been better. So the main thing I liked about the movie was the look of the movie, the overall feel and the mood of the movie. And I think that's what really gave it that Black classic romance label. And I'll describe the overall mood of the movie as sophisticated, cool, a little artsy with that city edge to it. It really does have some beautiful shots, like that first real shot that we get of Nina when she's looking out the window and it's raining and she's basically reminiscing about her failed relationship. It is such a beautiful shot, and I'm really obsessed with the color grading and that classic 90s film look. And the costume design I really loved. It really hit that 90s understated look. Like, I really loved her outfits, and it did have like a touch of that artsiness to it. So all right, so now I'm just gonna do a recap of the movie and then kind of, like I said, mention some issues I had along the way. So in the first scene, she's moving out of her old place, and her friend are talking about her failed engagement that ended, and she doesn't know where her ex-fiance is. And her friend's asking her if she's going to keep the ring, and she says she will, as a reminder of not to fall in love again. And the next scene, we get a group of friends chatting in this what looks like a lounge type of situation, and they're talking about romance and what romance means. One of the friends, her name is Sheila, she points out that Hollywood, we meet Hollywood. This is one of Darius's friends who we're going to later meet in a minute. She points out that he knows the least about romance. He's the least romantic, and this is kind of a foreshadowing for a future event. And then we meet Darius. He's a part of the group of friends. He basically gives his take on what romance is and basically describes it as the anticipation of getting to a certain event or a certain milestone when you're involved with someone. So he mentions the time between when you meet a woman and you first sleep with her, and then the time between when you propose to someone and then they say yes, which is like a minute. So it's important to know that he gives the most importance to the time between you meet a woman and sleeping with her. So I feel like this kind of tells us that this is his focus. This is what's important to him. This is what he is looking for when he gets involved with the woman, is to sleep with them. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well. Now, Darius and Nina first meet when they both go to the bar to get a drink. Nina speaks to him first and is obviously flirting and interested. And then Darius decides to go on stage and recite a poem that's for Nina. The poem appears to be romantic on the surface, but it really has a lot of sexual undertones to it. And Nina looks like she is flattered by the poem, but she's not too impressed by it. Like, you just met this woman 2 seconds ago and you're going on stage and talking about your desire to sleep with her. I can't imagine that any woman would find that too appealing unless that's also what they're looking for. And of course, she lets him know after they leave the lounge that, yeah, it was cute, but there's more important things that you can talk about, or more important things that matter, such as love. Even though she said in the beginning that she needs that ring as a reminder not to fall in love again, obviously this is something that's still important to her. So the next couple scenes are really just to let us know what Nina and Darius's situation is, or their job situation. Darius, he's a writer. He just quit his job and he has saved up money so he can focus on writing his book. And Nina, she is an assistant for a photographer, and she obviously does not want to be there because she's pretty blasé about it, nonchalant about it, and ends up getting fired from her job as an assistant. So then Nina happens to go into a record store that Darius's friend Sheila happens to work at. Then of course, a couple minutes later, who pulls up? Darius. Like, was this a setup? Like, what's going on? Just way too many coincidences in this one scene. I mean, I guess it's possible if they live in the same neighborhood in Chicago, but for it to all happen at the same time is kind of like, okay. Now, Nina does make it clear that he did indeed embarrass her when he recited that poem for her on stage, and she does still kind of let him talk. She does give him time of day, and she lets him play a record for her. He then decides to ask her out, where she does decline and states that it's bad timing, which I can understand. She just broke off her engagement, but then you also are kind of wondering, is it because of his misstep with reciting that poem that embarrassed her? So it could be both of those things, that, you know, she already had her guard up from her previously being engaged, and now he kind of put her off with that poem. Okay, so now here's where the stupid starts to set in. So Nina leaves to go home or whatever, and she is looking, I guess when she initially came in, she was looking for Isley Brothers record, but she did end up getting another record. They didn't have what she was looking for, so she got something else. And she hands her a check that has her new address on it. So Darius decides to ask Sheila for her address off of the check. Now Sheila's telling him that he's, you know, moving too fast. What if she has a boyfriend at home? But of course she still gives him her address, which is crazy. I feel like this is so nonsensical. No one would do that. Like, why would she risk her job to give her friends some random girl's address? And the fact that he actually shows up at her door, I think he has the Isley Brothers record. So he shows up at her door, and I think it's pretty obvious, like, who else would have gave him her address? This is never brought up again. It's never addressed. Like, this is not real life. Like, somebody call the police. Like, seriously, somebody call the police. Why are you, random lady at a record store, giving some random man my address? This is crazy. Like, you're getting fired. I'm calling your job. I'm calling the police. Please alert, there's a stalker in the neighborhood. Seriously, no. This is crazy. He wants to come in, and she's like, oh, I know you're not trying to come in. She still lets him in. What? BS. No. I'm calling the police. That's where you can go. You're not coming in here. You can go to jail. That's what you can do. Okay, so Nina lets him in and they start to banter, and this is where we find out that she's a photographer, and it makes sense that she's not trying to be anybody's assistant. And, you know, as they're talking, Darius says that he's going to keep trying to ask her out until she says yes, just like a stalker. And she does say yes. They do, and she agrees to go with him to hang out with his friends the following night. So cut to them hanging out with his friends. The conversation is fun and philosophical per usual. And, you know, they're having a conversation about God. Sheila says God is a woman. And of course, here comes Darius again. He agrees God is a woman, but it's based solely on the sexual hold that women have over men. So here is Darius, he's making it clear again that this is his priority, is having something sexual with a woman. Now, when they leave together, they go for a casual stroll. And they go for a casual stroll outside, and I can barely focus on what they're saying because Nina is walking in the rain casually with her straight hair. Now, I can suspend my disbelief for vampires, monsters, witches, warlocks, whatever. But a black woman walking in the rain with straight hair, casually, without an umbrella, that is where I draw the line. No, that's not happening. If you know a black woman, she straightens her hair, we are not getting our hair wet, period. Now, while they're on the walk, Darius suggests that they go to a reggae club, and Nina's all like, but what if it starts raining again? And Darius is all like,
oh, now don't tell me this. You're afraid of getting a little wet tonight.
Ugh, God, give me a break. Gross. Like, dude, stop being such a freaking weirdo. Like, I'm sorry, am I the only one who's just weirded out by this dude at this point? So Nina, for some reason, decides to go to the reggae club with him, and I really do like this scene. It really transitions the movie to a sultry central mood that really sets it up for the next scene to come. When they leave the club, of course, Nina invites him up, and then they sleep together, and this is where I lose interest. And I lose interest because I felt like there was really no build up to that moment. It just really felt like it was unearned. And I felt like she really barely liked this guy. And her guard is still up. So what would make her sleep with him in that moment? Like, okay, the reggae club was a vibe. It was cute. But I don't get why they would make her sleep with him at that moment. Like, it's pretty early in the movie, you know, let the tension build up, like let some tension build up. So it didn't. It was blah to me. So the next day, Darius makes her breakfast and makes a point to mention that he hopes Nina doesn't disappear on him. He's obviously smitten by Nina, and Nina is trying to play it cool. And it does make me wonder, like, have other women disappeared on him? You make it seem like you're so kind of swept up in just the sexual aspect of things, but like you're kind of sounding pressed right now. Now, later, after this, Nina tells her friend what happened in the car. So, like I said, she was trying to play it cool, but yeah, she enjoyed herself the night before, and she does seem like she kind of likes him. We get Darius also telling his friend that he is pretty much into her, but when he goes to meet up with his friend, his wife is leaving him. And I feel like they put this scene in there just to kind of contrast like the beginning of a relationship when you're first starting to fall for someone or you really first like someone, to when he said about romance in the beginning, where marriages aren't romantic anymore. They don't experience that because you don't really have anything else to look forward to. So I feel like this is kind of speaking to that when he mentioned that in the beginning when they had the discussion about romance. So I do feel like they added this part to kind of contrast that the beginning of a relationship and you still have things to look forward to versus being in a marriage and the struggles of being in a marriage. And there doesn't really seem like there's much to look forward to. His wife's leaving him, marriage is a drag, blah, blah, blah. Now, Nina and Darius, they have a couple of other exchanges where basically you realize they're just hooking up. There's not really much to their situation. And then Nina's fiance, he shows up at her door. He wants them to work it out and wants her to move to New York with him. We don't really know why their engagement ended. Like, we don't really know much about their relationship yet. At this point, I don't know if we're gonna find out much about their relationship, so I'm thinking we will. And we all know that most likely he's probably gonna be perceived as a dirtbag because he looks like he's financially stable, and any man who's financially stable in a movie has to be the bad guy, right? But she does want to see if she still loves him, so she's considering moving to New York with him. So Nina asks Josie, her friend, at lunch if she should tell Darius about her moving back to New York. And her friend says, well, tell him, but if he gets upset about it, then you should stay. But if he acts like he doesn't care, then you should go. Which is really stupid advice, especially because we learn in the next scene when they're hooking up again that they've only known each other for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'm not gonna base my decision off of some other person, even if we were dating for longer. Like, I might consider them, you know what I mean? But I'm gonna make my decision based off what I want to do. Like, if we're in a full-fledged relationship, that's a different story. But like, if we were dating for a little longer, I might consider you. But if we're only talking, we're not even dating. We're messing around for only 2 weeks. Your opinion doesn't matter at that point. I'm just telling you as a, to be polite. I'm just telling you to be polite that, hey, I'm going back to New York. My fiance showed back up. I'm going to move in with him in New York, see if we're going to work it out. This was fun. This was cool. It was nice knowing you. But yeah, I'll see you around. Like, it's only been 2 weeks. Like, what? This is crazy. Who cares about his opinion? And I'm just saying it because it's only been 2 weeks. They have nothing. They have established nothing. They're not even dating. So it does seem like Darius is a little bit more invested than Nina is in this whole little situation. But he still continues to play it cool with her. He plays it cool with his friend, just playing it cool. So Nina goes ahead and moves to New York, I guess because Darius played it cool. That made her move back. It's so stupid. I doubt it. Just dumb. But yeah, she moves back to New York. She's trying to find work as a photographer again. So she has like this interview that doesn't go well. She comes back home and Marvin or Melvin, he's looking for his toasted oats. I guess Nina ate his toasted oats, whatever. So he's irritated. She comes in irritated and they kind of have this exchange. So she talks about how the interview didn't go well, and then Melvin or Marvin says, I can take care of both of us. And she's basically cutting him off, finishing his sentences, kind of basically alluding to the fact that he doesn't really respect her as a photographer. He doesn't take her career seriously. But we don't really know that because she's just finishing his sentences. She's not letting him talk. So maybe he's the bad guy, but we don't really know. Maybe she sucks. Like, we don't really know any of the details of the relationship. They don't really give us any information about why they broke up, or I'm assuming I think they were together for some years. So they were together for some years. They got engaged. The engagement broke off. He was nowhere to be found in the beginning when she was moving. We really don't know why. Was he at work? Was he out of town? Like, we don't know. So it's kind of trying to paint him as the bad guy, but we don't really know if he's the bad guy or not, or what went wrong. It could have been her because they don't really give us too much information. So they have this little argument over some cereal, and then she moves back to Chicago, I guess. That's it with that, I guess. Just this little blip with her moving to New York. I mean, with us not really knowing anything about their relationship, with nothing really happening when she goes to New York, we really just get this one scene and then she comes back to Chicago. It felt really pointless for her to even go to New York. Like, they really should have fleshed this out more and gave us some more details. Like, you didn't have to give us too much, but just make us understand why we should care about them being together, or just to raise the stakes so we can understand what this means with her moving to New York with him. When them really not giving us anything, it's just like, okay, like, whatever. She moves to New York, she's moving back, she's leaving him. Like, we can't just be like, oh my God, no, don't leave him. We don't even know. There's no substance to their relationship. At least the movie doesn't add that substance for us. She moves back to Chicago. She sees Darius with another girl. So this causes her to go on a date with his friend, Hollywood. Why? Like, why does she keep giving these overly sexual, unemployed weirdos a chance? But especially now, she seems like she's a piece of trash because she was messing around with this guy, and then she goes on this date with his friend for what? Like, even when they're out to dinner, he's just being weird and making like these sexual jokes that she's just laughing at. No. Like, to me, the decisions she's making don't make sense, since she was in this relationship with this man for years who was financially stable. I'm assuming he was taking care of her. and they got engaged, and now you're just making all these stupid decisions with these random men when you said that you don't even want to be reminded of love anymore, or you don't even want to find love anymore, but you're making all these terrible decisions with men. It really just feels like the plot is moving her versus her as a character really making her own decisions. Like, it's just, things are just happening to her, and she's just like, okay. She gives a little resistance, and then she's like, okay. She does go out on another date with Hollywood, and then he ends up taking her to the friend's house. Darius is there. Nina gets upset that Hollywood took her there, knowing that Darius may be there, and then she walks out. Hollywood just leaves her to go off wherever. Darius does come back out and to make sure that she gets home safe. And while she's waiting on a cab, they do argue about her dating his friend. I mean, she is a piece of trash for that. Like, what is the purpose? Like, there's like 1 million people in Chicago. Like, you could have dated anybody. Why would you go on a date with his friend? And she mentions that she saw him out with a girl. Like, girl, so? Like, what? Y'all was only talking for 2 weeks and just messing around. So why do you care that he was out with a girl? Like, you left to go live with your fiance. Like, how's that even relevant? It's not. So later she calls him to apologize, and then they go out on a real date, and she invites him in, and she decides that she doesn't want to sleep with them because she wants to, I guess she wants to save something for later, something like that. But of course she's not obligated to sleep with them, so whatever. And he does eventually go up to her room and says he wants to play a record for her. They slow dance. So we get the cute little relationship montage that we should have got a long time ago. And at this point, I just do not care about this movie. I don't care about the relationship. I just don't care. So they do show more of the relationship. They have an argument, they break up. Nina gets her dream job and leaves. Darius tries to catch her before she does, and it's too late. Darius finishes his book. Nina, she's an established photographer, but she ends up coming back to Chicago for a job. She says a little poem at the lounge, and Darius happens to be there. They catch up with each other afterwards in the rain, of course, and that's the end of the movie. Here's my overall issue with this movie. It's just boring. The stakes are just way too low, especially for the first couple parts of the movie, or for the majority of the movie. The stakes are just way too low. It doesn't give me any reason to root for them as a couple. It doesn't give me a reason to root for her and her ex-fiance as a couple. There's just nothing to really get me invested in any of these situations that's going on. Now, what I would have done, or what I would have liked, and what I think would have been better, is just take Lorenz Tate out. I'm sorry. He just seems he just looks like a boy. He looks like he hasn't gone through puberty yet. And he doesn't have any charisma. He doesn't have any charm to where the stalking isn't cute. Like, you can't pull off the stalking. Like, he's not like Ryan Gosling in The Notebook, where he is just doing the most. Like, Ryan Gosling is very charming and charismatic, so he can pull it off in The Notebook. So replace Lorenz Tate with someone else, because the stalking, he just came off as a weirdo to me. I was just not believing that Nina was attracted to Darius. Like, she's just too beautiful, too sophisticated. I just wasn't believing that she was attracted to him. And then I will also kind of give them more time to develop like real feelings for each other in the beginning. Like, even if their situation was still going to be like a hookup type situation or a situationship, people develop feelings for each other in those type of situations all the time, and that's when things really get complicated and messed up when you are initially just hooking up with someone and then you start to get those feelings for each other, and maybe someone wants it more than the other one. So I would have developed that more in the beginning, just to raise the stakes, just to have us really believing that Nina actually kind of liked him. It didn't really seem like she did. And then really to make us feel like Darius was more invested in her. Like, even if he was playing it cool, I don't think anybody would be that pressed over, you know, sleeping with someone for 2 weeks. It's just not believable to me. I would have also really gave more details on the relationship between Nina and Melvin. Like, we don't really know what the details of the relationship was. We don't really know why they broke up. We don't know, like, give us some substance. There was no substance to that situation. So we don't really see why she would go back to New York with him. What will make her want to see if she, like, what will make her move across state lines with this man? For what? Like, you can't just tell us that they were engaged and that was her ex-fiancé and they were together for years. We need to see those years. The part where she dated his friend, just cut that out. Just scrap the whole thing. No point for that. We didn't need that. Her moving to New York with her boyfriend or ex-fiance was enough. So completely cut out the whole her going on a date with Hollywood. It just made her look like trash. I didn't want to root for her. And then get us to kind of pick a side, like, oh no, you should stay in New York with your fiance, or you should stay with Darius, or make it difficult for us to decide. Like, raise the stakes, get us invested. And yeah, honestly, that is what I would change for the most part. I think that would have made the movie a lot better. And now, I did kind of feel like on a second watch, I kind of felt like I was starting to understand like what their character arcs was and what the whole point of the movie was. So with Nina, it seems like, and I do feel like I'm giving the writer a little too much credit here, but with her meeting Darius and kind of just being like, okay, kind of going along with messing around with him, and then kind of going along with moving back with her boyfriend to New York and going on a date with Hollywood, not really putting up too much resistance and just kind of following along with whatever. It seems like her whole focus needed to be for her to take her being a photographer more seriously and stop worrying about this dude over here and this dude over here. So once she was actually able to finally get away from these men, that's when her career took off. So I think that was her lesson, was to not be so moved by men and allowing men to control what goes on in her life, to where she needs to take the control back and make decisions for herself so she can finally do what's best for her. Now with Darius, with the whole him being more focused on sexual aspects of a relationship or a situation with a woman, it seems like that was his focus. But when he finally did sleep with Nina, it seems like he was like, oh wait, actually I want more than that from her. So I think his whole character arc was to realize that it's not about getting to some milestone, especially the sexual milestone. It is the journey. It is the day-to-day. It is just being with that person, experiencing life with that person, and not just getting to that sexual milestone. So I feel like that was what he needed to learn, and what he did learn, like when he met someone that he felt more for. So when they finally get together at the end, I'm assuming they have both learned those lessons. So yeah, that is my thoughts on Love Jones. It pained me to have to watch it again for a second time for this video, but it's okay. Do you feel like I am doing too much? Like, is this your ride or die movie? Is this like the epitome of Black romance dramas for you? Yeah, or do you agree with me? Do you think this movie just is way too overhyped, way too overrated? Let me know what you think. And that's all I have. Bye.